It's Halloween! Okay, it's not. But you might be watching this in the future, and you too might want to know how to create a Burning Witch costume. So welcome to MoggyBoxCraft. I'm Deborah, and today I'm going to show you how I created the costume and how I did my makeup. So let's get into it. So I found this black hoop skirt, which will be the perfect base for the fire. You know, like as if I'm standing in a fire pit, like on fire. I popped the hoop skirt on my beautiful clothes mannequin Brenda. Yes, she's called Brenda. And yes, I did give her a beautiful makeover in lockdown last year. If you'd like to see that makeover actually, I'll put a link up here and the description box below so you can check that out later. So I took Brenda and the hoop skirt outside onto our decking. Obviously I covered the area with cardboard because I do not need to get paint all over my garden furniture. We've all made that mistake before, have we not? So to create a fire illusion on the bottom of my dress, I thought I'd start with some white paint, just to cover the area a little bit, to make the rest of the colours pop. So I used this multi-purpose white spray paint. Give the can a good shake and spray away to create a sort of smoky effect. And then to create the flames for my fire, I just cut out a bit of cardboard as a template. And of course got some more spray paint in the colours red, orange and yellow. I started with the red paint at the highest point I wanted the flames to be on the skirt, and then I just repeated that process around the whole skirt with the red paint. And then I used the orange paint for a layer of flames below the red paint. So I did go back and touch up a few bits between the orange and the red layers just to fill up any gaps. And then at the bottom of the skirt I added a bit more white. So then when I added the yellow paint, it would just show up that little bit more. And for the yellow, I did a mix of just freehand painting and using the template. The yellow didn't show up quite so well on top of the orange, but I think it works. So while that's all drying, we're going to make a shoulder shrug. Oh, that's difficult to say, shoulder shrug. We're going to need shoulder pads, or something that resembles shoulder pads. The base of this structure is just made out of leftover bits of cardboard. So I've just cut out something that resembles a shoulder pad. And then using the first one as a template, I just cut out 3 more. Then to make 2 of these smaller, I just cut 1 inch off the outer edge. And then I cut out another 2 smaller pieces. So the idea is that I can layer them and sandwich fabric in between the layers, and hopefully will keep the structure stronger when I've assembled it. So to make this a little bit more professional, I'm going to use some scrap pieces of this black crushed velvet material and cover up some of this cardboard. Using the cardboard cutouts as templates, I've just cut the material, what's that called? Not overhang, seam allowance. Is it called seam allowance? Well, that's what we're calling it. Using the pieces of cardboard as my templates, leaving about 1 inch to 2 inches of seam allowance. I just want to cover the cardboard enough so we don't see the cardboard when this is all assembled, okay? And there's no point using more fabric than you need. I just glued everything down using a glue gun because I am a lazy glue gun enthusiast. Why stitch when you can glue? Because let's be honest, I'm not going to be wearing this very often. And as it turns out, it was quite big and bulky. This isn't a very wearable piece, unless you've got a lot of doorway and you want people to stay away from you, which maybe isn't necessarily a bad thing. Open to interpretation. So to connect the shoulder pads, we're going to be using the offcuts of cardboard from earlier because I really want this to be a bit more stable on my shoulders. I just glued the 2 pieces together with a bit of glue gun glue to make them a little bit more rigid, and of course covered them with more of that black fabric. Now, to make this sit on my shoulders a tiny bit better, I did bend the cardboard into more of a curved shape, and then I attached the shoulder pads using a whole pile of glue gun glue to my newly covered offcuts of cardboard. And yes, I did place these on my shoulders just to double check that everything was in the right place, and yes, I did have to adjust them, but we got there in the end. So now you can see the underneath section where they sit on my shoulder is covered with fabric, so you won't see any cardboard flashing through. A little bit more professional. Not really, it's cardboard covered in fabric, but that's okay. It's a Halloween costume, who cares? So now to make this shrug a little bit more fabulous, I start covering up that cardboard. I'm going to start with a feather boa. It was in my craft cupboard. I don't know why it's there. but I think this is a great way to repurpose it. So using a heap of glue gun glue, I just glued the feather boa to the edge of my shoulder pads. So for the next layer, I just used this black mesh fabric, scrunched up around the edges and glued it down. And yes, I did burn myself a few times doing this. So to cover that up and secure those layers in place, I'm going to use some of that cardboard from earlier. It is at this point I realised that I've made my cardboard cutouts from earlier far too big. So I cut them in half and then cut them down some more and of course glued them down. And then another layer of feather boa and then a layer of sparkly mesh material. Much like the mesh before, but it's black with a silvery sparkle in it. I just glued that down much the same way as I did the other mesh and then repeated this process with feathers, mesh, cardboard until I was happy with how it looked. And of course I'd covered up all sides of cardboard until ta-da! Shrug is complete. And of course glued on a little bit of ribbon so it can't fall off. So now the paint is dry on the hoop skirt, it's time to add some lights. Because is it a costume if it doesn't light up? Although this year, admittedly, my costume does not have very many lights at all compared to usual. And it's supposed to be fire. It's supposed to light up. We need to be able to see this in the dark. It just makes sense, you know? So I got these LED lights in red, orange and yellow. They're 5-metre lengths and they're battery operated. Perfect for a fire effect. And to make this process a little bit easier, because stitching LED rope onto anything is a nightmare. I should know. I once sewed 40 metres of LED rope onto a pair of leggings and a jumper for a Tron costume. All hand stitched, it was a nightmare. It wasn't a nightmare, but it took bloody forever. So to make this easier and to hold the shape, I'm going to be using wire and just bend it into a zigzag shape. And then to attach the lights, I'm using sellotape. Lots of sellotape. So I just cut the tape into small pieces and taped the lights to the wire. This did take ages. So maybe this isn't as fast. I mean, it's got to have been faster, surely. Less fiddly anyway. So it might not be any faster, but it will keep the shape better. Hopefully. And then to attach the lights to the skirt, I disconnected the battery pack. Then lifting up the skirt on the underside, I've just cut through the material to expose that little bit of wire. And then clip the battery packs on there. Then cut a small hole in the material of the skirt so I could thread the battery pack wire through and reattach the batteries and the lights. So to attach the wire to the skirt, we're going to use an old-fashioned needle and thread using single stitches at the top and bottom of each zigzag. So I did try to reshape the wire as I went into a more like flame fire type look. Not sure that really worked. With more time this probably could have worked out better, but it is what it is. Now the fire bit is done, it's time to move on to the rest of the costume. I've got this oversized grey dress and a black waist corset. And then I just cut the dress into a bit of a ragged mess. This is so much easier if you've got dressmaking scissors. Don't know why I just didn't buy a pair before. I just cut the lower half of this dress into strips so it kind of fits over the hoop skirt a little bit better. And of course cut them all different lengths and at the ends just chop them into points to make it look very ragged. Then after giving the sleeves of the dress the same treatment, I did take the dress outside and just spray painted those edges with black, just to make them look a little bit singed. While that was drying, it was time to move on to the headpiece. I got these cheap Maleficent rip-off Halloween horns. I just want to make them a little bit sturdier, add a little bit of sparkle, so it's a little bit more cohesive with the shrug and the rest of the costume. So using the last of that crushed black velvet material, so first I just glued up those little flappy bits on the horns because what the heck are those? And then glued and wrapped the material around the rest of the horns. Then using some strips of that sparkly material, I just glued them and wrapped them around the horns. Just so they'll match the shrug really. So now the costume's complete, it's time for some makeup. I've started with my base makeup done. I'm going to pop some concealer around my eyes. And then do circles of red, orange and yellow. Oh, that's a look, isn't it? A bit of concealer. Because I don't have eyeshadow primer, so this is going to have to do the job. Is this makeup going to be really messy? Probably. But it's Halloween. It's supposed to be. Going to be using a Jawbreaker palette. I'm just going to use this red eyeshadow. Maybe a mix of these two oranges. And the yellow. And I'll get a black eyeshadow out of a different palette because there isn't one in here. That looks clean enough. I might dip into the Conspiracy palette as well because I really love this red. It's a bit brighter than the other one. I think I'm going to apply it looking down into my mirror so I don't get makeup all over the rest of my face and foundation. I know this looks crazy. It will get better. Okay, it still looks no better. Oh my god, I look like a crazy superhero. Like a really bad Halloween superhero, which makes me a villain. Well, yeah, it is Halloween, I suppose. Oh well, on to the yellow. I think it's time for a wee spritz of setting spray. Try and hold that in place. This is the scary bit. Start adding the black eyeshadow. It's going to go everywhere, isn't it? I'm going to start adding the black eyeshadow in the sockets of my eyes, not actually in my eyes, you know, on the lid. Smoke it out. I think I just need more detail. A lot more detail. I think I just need more black eyeshadow. I'm going to pop on some lippy, some black eyeliner, some white eyeliner, a load of lashes, and then I shall show you what it all looks like together. So I might have got a bit boozy at our Halloween party on homebrew cider, toffee apple, it was delicious. And yes, it did take me 3 days to recover from the hangover and to clean the house and to put away all the Halloween decorations. Was it worth it? Absolutely! We had a great night. So I completely forgot to film a nitro with my makeup and costume on. So this video might be a tad late. But that's okay, Christmas is coming. Preparations have started already. So thank you very much for watching. If you've enjoyed this video, leave a like, leave a comment, share and subscribe. Of course, subscribing is optional, but it is very much appreciated. So thank you all so much for watching. I'll see you next time. Bye!